Good day and welcome inside the scores table. Brian Haenchen, Danny Riego here with you. We are 4 days away from the start of sectionals. They begin on Tuesday. So Danny and I are here to run through some of those big games that are coming up on Tuesday. And actually, Danny, I'm glad that you put into that in the chat. But before we get to that, I think we should talk about the big news of the day, which is, of course, that the shot clock, for those who haven't seen, Kyle Mednarp had the report on IndyStar.com. The Coaches Association is forwarding a proposal, I think, in essence, to bring the shot clock to Indiana as early as next season. The Indiana Basketball Coach Association surveyed its membership, and they got 612 responses out of 800 total coaches. That's boys and girls. And of those returning, 68% are in favor of a shot clock, so well over 50%. 77% response shows that it's a popular topic. And, they said that the 35-second shot clock proposal was presented to the Athletic Administrators Association last week. So, Danny, I'll start with you and then your thoughts.
Oh, I'm proud of the 612 coaches that voted and the 68% that, it's just the way every game is played. It's the way that the basketball game is played at most levels above high school basketball, and a lot of the club stuff is played that way too. It's just, I think it's a more fun brand of basketball. I get all the statistics. I get all the statistics for the finances. I get all the statistics that the average length of possession is what it is. But we approaching postseason, that was actually one of the things that I was going to talk about at the beginning is 'tis the season for somebody to hold the ball. 'Tis the season for special defenses. 'Tis the season for, the one elongated possession that could end somebody's season or extend somebody's season. So, that all changes. So if this is headed in the direction that it looks like it's headed, everybody enjoy your last shot clockless basketball tournament this month.
The current proposal calls for it to be implemented next season, as I read here from Kyle's story. The board of directors would vote on the proposal at its meeting in May. So it's still a little bit of ways away. So we'll see what happens here. But yeah, to your point, gets rid of the free throw festival that we get at the end of a lot of close games. It rewards teams, in my opinion, for playing good defense. It eliminates the possibility of playing stall ball. It takes that out of the game entirely. And yeah, you can say come out and defend them all you want, but good defense doesn't always result directly in a steal or a turnover. It doesn't. A lot of times you see a little baloney foul, or the ball gets knocked out of bounds and the offense gets to start everything over again, things like that. I should have said a steal or a missed shot. You should reward teams for playing good defense. And I think 35 seconds is a good number. Plus, you have to remember too, Danny, this on the AAU circuit, these kids are used to playing with the shot clock. So it's not like this is going to be anything new or foreign to them. And I have enough faith in the coaches around the state that they'll figure out how to make it work too on the high school side of things. And yeah, the personnel and the finances are real concerns, but that's something that can be addressed and figured out. But yeah, that was a very pleasant surprise to see that come across my Twitter feed today, for sure.
Well, I do want to make one more point on this. It affects more of the game flow than the length of possession, which is the easiest thing to look at. But let's see if I can come up with a pertinent example. Mount Vernon and Pendleton Heights is one of the games on our list that we're going to talk about. Julie Shelton runs a great zone. And we talk about death taxes, Julie Shelton, and they really lock in and guard. But the lead is important in that game, because if Mount Vernon doesn't have the lead in the absence of a shot clock, they have to extend their zone a little bit. Even if they don't have the lead in the presence of a shot clock, they can remain packed in the zone, stay with the integrity of their defense, and try to get stops that way. Whereas if they do have the lead, they can pack in against Pendleton Heights. It just affects possession to possession of a game flow of a game that, quite frankly, figures to be a pretty good matchup.
Yeah, absolutely. Like I said before, I'm interested, fascinated to see where this goes from here. But there's barely some momentum in that direction of a shot clock. Are you surprised by the number of coaches in favor of it, 68%? Do you think it'd be higher or lower?
I thought it would be higher. The 612 out of 800, that surprises me that many people voted. I would have thought it would have been higher than 68%, but that's by both metrics, over 51% and over 67% majority. That is a pretty resounding number. And I was wrong, because I think I've said multiple times on this podcast that I thought we were going to have NIL before shot clock, and wrong again.
I think because NIL's creeping in. I forget what state it was. Soak texted us that link the other day, but I think I made that joke to you guys. Like, oh, it's crazy. We're going to have NIL in high school sports before a properly seeded tournament and a shot clock, but at least we're getting one of those two things.
Yep.
Let's dive into Tuesday. Danny and I have selected a few games we just wanted to touch on, a few in the lower classes, then we'll deep dive a little bit on the bigger classes. The plan is obviously we're going to have shows all next week, so there's going to be content and previews of those Friday games. We might actually do a separate show to preview those semifinal games. So rest assured, if we didn't talk about your team tonight and your team, and you feel like we left you out, we're going to probably get to you before this thing is all said and done.
And keep winning. Teams that want us to talk about them, keep winning. Eventually, we will talk about you if you keep winning, I suspect.
The law of averages would suggest as much. Yeah, the smaller the field, the more time we have to talk about different teams. A quick Class A matchup, Danny, that jumped out to me immediately was that Westville-Morgan Township game at Morgan Township. That's the second game in that Morgan Township sectional. Harrell has it as a 47-45 finish there. Obviously, big star there in Hillary Labus for Westville, who's been putting up fantastic numbers this season. She's averaging 26 points a game, and they've actually played twice over a 4-day stretch, Morgan Township and Westville, which is kind of crazy. Westville won by 4, then they lost the other by Morgan Township won the first matchup by 4, lost the other one by 10. In that first game, they held Hillary Labus and Ava Fenters to 33 points, and then in the second game, the rematch, Hillary Labus went for 36. So what happens on Tuesday is anybody's guess, but that'll be an interesting one. Morgan Township, a really good rebounding team, 32 boards per game. They're also generating 14 steals a game. Just one maybe there to keep an eye on in Class A.
One note, with Hillary's really good. Okay, and the metrics are there. She is above the line of demarcation of all the offensive statistics. She has the ability to kind of take over basketball games. I've coached against her, and it's zero fun, I will tell you that. This is the perfect opportunity to really kind of lead with this. Like, this is like, 'tis the season again. And I said it at the very opening of the show. 'Tis the season for box and 1. 'Tis the season for triangle and 2. 'Tis the season for taking triangle and 2 and putting 2 on a kid. This is survive and advance. Okay. Coaches don't have to make apologies for trying to win basketball games within the context of the rules. And I think kids like Hillary, there's another one like Naomi Hahn, some of the great individual players like that we'll kind of get into here. They faced box and 1 throughout the season. They faced limited possessions throughout the season. They faced all of the junk that you could possibly face. But I think that concept of coaches trying to do things that are a little bit unique to win a basketball game, I think is going to be even more so in postseason. So kids like Hillary, we get to see how truly special they are, because many times the water level is such that the better player in these classes, the reason why they're doing that is because they can't win the game straight up. I don't mean to sound so, blatant and cutthroat about it, but that typically puts a large spotlight or a bright spotlight on kids like Hillary. And I'm excited to see what she can do.
That'll be a really good one to keep an eye on. Was there anything, Danny, that you wanted to get to in Class A or 2A? I feel like most of those matches, the bracket set up that they're going to come later in the week up there.
I agree with you. Yeah, I think most of the stuff for Tuesday nights, some Wednesday night stuff is really a kind of a 3A, 4A slate.
Mm-hmm. Speaking of Class 3, that's where we're going to go next. Heritage Hills at Evansville Central in their sectional game. Central, Maddie Shirley, obviously the big storyline there. They've gone a little bit of a heater of late. Heritage Hills, though, is no pushover as first-round opponents go. Heritage Hills, they're led by Mia Beecher and Ila Kress. They're both at 27 points combined per game and 11 rebounds. So Evansville Central could have their hands full. But with how the Bears have been playing of late, getting kind of that balanced scoring behind Shirley, that seems to bode well for them going into the sectional.
Yeah, and Carson Moore was a kid that we brought up when we had Coach Alexander and the Evansville Central people on, that really her emergence, particularly on the defensive side. That was a really interesting comment that he was like, listen, this kid had to make the decision to guard to see the floor. those are the kids, Carson Moore, who really make a name for themselves in the postseason because they typically get individual assignments and they just lock into it. We'll get into it when we get into some of the two-way stuff with like the Knox County schools. But remember, like Grace Detweiler became, I don't want to say a household name, but a household name for lack of a better description, when she guarded Courtney Matthew in the state championship because she had a singular purpose in that basketball game that the coach kind of leaned in on. He's not here, so I'm going to ask it. Hank, do you know what, when we were talking about like the 2,000 points and coach didn't want it mentioned and then kind of made the face, do you know? I don't mean to put you on the spot. Guilty as charged here. I'm kind of prolonging this because I see you kind of searching for it, but do you know where is there a number that we should be looking for with Maddie?
I know that there is a number, but out of an abundance of respect for the Evansville Central Girls basketball program and Maddie Shirley, I will not put that number out there because the last time that I did, I think she was held to like 13 points the next time out, and then their next game got snowed out. So that really put them into a corner. So I don't want to put anything out there into the universe again that makes any worse. But no, Maddie, full confidence that Maddie will get the requisite however many points she needs left to get there. She's closing in on 2,000. She's inside of 40 points.
Well, math tells you like let's say that there's like Brooke Zartman. It's a great example, right? Brooke Zartman is chasing down like all-time 3 p.m. records. Well, the number of games matters because mathematically, if you divide by 8 or you divide by 7, that's a different number that you can get. So extending the season is one that is centered around school pride, but it also gives kids chances to reach some milestones. And I think Maddie is one of those kids that we'll be watching. So good luck, Maddie. She'll get it.
This is what we played back. Held over our heads when something goes horribly awry.
I know. Earmuffs, Coach Alexander. Sorry.
Danny did it this time, I swear. Let's see. Real quick note here. Let's see. Cascade-Speedway is one that I have marked down here. I previewed a lot of these teams in our capsules. We'll start pushing these out as you watch this on Friday and Saturday. So tomorrow and 2 days from now, I guess, if we post this on Thursday. But Cascade has the Macy Pugh-Taylor Gibbs combo. They have a nice win over Edgewood. And then it looks like Northview is the favorite in that section, but on the Speedway side, they have some really talented scores too. Madeline Metallic is averaging 14 a game, 9 rebounds, 4 assists, 4 steals. She's had some massive games. Haley Clampett's the king kind of thing. She's had some huge games. She's a 51% shooter. So at Cascade-Speedway, if you're looking for a dark horse, good game to watch, that could be an interesting one out there in Edgewood. Moving over, Danny, Lebanon sectional, one that I wanted to pause on is that Guerin Catholic-Brebeuf Jesuit game. They played just less than a week ago. They played last Friday. Game went to overtime. Really a phenomenal game between the two of them. I'll get your initial thoughts on that while I pull up some fun with numbers that I have on Brebeuf and Guerin.
Yeah, I'll let you kind of take the numbers. I before you get to the numbers, I want to hear your thoughts on what you saw from Jalen Bowling, though. She's
really matured as a player, like just the way that she moves. It's nice to see her back out there healthy because obviously she missed most of last year due to injury, but the way that she controls the game, like she can beat you from outside. She's really good inside, like, just the natural progression as kids get older. You see she's a lot more confident in attacking the basket off the dribble. And then when you pair that with a kid like Robin Pate, who can score and put up points in a hurry, that helps a ton. And then Audra Kendall, I've been covering her since like her freshman, sophomore year, and that kid's really steady running point. So I think when you pair the three of those together, it works really well. But I don't think there's much question that getting Bowling going is kind of the key for Brebeuf still. Even with those really good pieces around her, she's kind of the X factor that makes things go for them.
I've marveled at her athleticism numerous times on this, and then she had the injury. But I think you're right. Like, she is getting healthier and looking healthier. Like, you put a couple of clips on your Twitter feed that was like her chasing down loose balls in the full court and like dead sprints. Like, those are things that Jalen Bowling can do and will do and is continuing to do now on a regular basis now that she's healthier. I would expect a really electric postseason from Jalen Bowling. I think she's one of the 20 best players in the class. And when you say that you're one of the 20 best players in the class, like, you need to start having, not need to, but it would be nice to have like deep postseason runs to couple and staple to the resume, because this is a kid that has a very, very good chance of finding herself on the Indiana Junior All-Star team. So I think, Jalen, let's keep an eye on that. And I did want to just remind everybody that the entire season has been a progression toward her health being back. And she does look really good now. And I would expect that it's just going to get stronger and stronger as the stakes get higher and higher in these games.
Absolutely. I mentioned before, and this is something that Aaron Miller and I have talked about over the past couple of weeks, is just when Brebeuf shoots the ball well, that's kind of their key to victory, is that they have to shoot the ball well. And that sounds really simple on the surface, but I dug into the numbers as part of my preview, and here's this. They're 11-1 when they shoot at least 34% from the field, and in those wins, 10 of them they hit 14-plus shots. On the other side of it, they're 0-10 when they shoot below 33%, and they've shot below 30%. They've shot less than 30% in 8 of those losses. So that's kind of the magical, we have magic numbers for Warsaw in terms of their point total. For Brebeuf, it's kind of getting into that mid to upper 30 range where they find their most success. And then when the offense gets clicking, just for whatever reason, that's just been kind of the magic elixir for this team the past few years. Is just they need the shots to fall, because they're good in the other areas, but not quite good enough to overcome a poor shooting performance. I think Danny froze. We might both be frozen. On the Guerin side of things, Danny, I don't know if you can hear me. On the Guerin side of things, Danny just dropped out. We'll get him back here in a minute. On the Guerin side of things, they're really young with 8 freshmen on the roster. 6 of them play big-time minutes in that rotation, all kind of tied together, as I've written out before. Caroline Ford, she's a lacrosse player who actually was debating on coming back this season, but decided to fulfill her promise to the coach and her teammates and come back for this year. She leads the team in scoring, rebounding, and assists. Just a really tremendous all-around player, really good defender as well. And just, like I said, ties together a really good young group there that they have as we bring Danny back on the screen. You back, Danny?
Yes, I'm sorry.
No, you're good.
Oh, I mean, the snow 1, internet 0, I guess.
That's all good. I was just rambling about Guerin. This is just a dumpster fire of a show already. I'm on fumes. You've been watching games till your eyes bleed. Really just a phenomenal time all around. But I mentioned Guerin. They're young, Danny. They're tied together by the Ford kid. They're dealing with some injuries. They had, I think it was their point guard was out when I saw them against Brebeuf. She's been dealing with a nagging injury throughout the year. And then they lost the younger Cardinal sister midway through the game. They've been playing through it all season, so it's not like it's really anything new. But I think the extra time for them to kind of get healthy over this stretch, I think they were going to sit some girls against Crispus Attucks if that game still happens with the weather. That'll help them at least get a little bit fresher. But I'm really curious there to see how the experience of Brebeuf matches up against the lack of experience for Guerin in that game.
Anything can happen in these postseason rivalry games. I don't mean to stay too 30,000 foot on this, but like on the boys' side, like when Kyle covers the boys' tournament coming up, like he's going to talk about Brebeuf and Guerin. I remember seeing Jalen Bowling play in the 6 o'clock game of a girls-boys doubleheader when the boys were 1-2. That does extend across different sports, girls basketball included. And so I would just say that in a rivalry game and in a game that I think is going to have kind of long-term rivalry stories coupled with it, this could be another chapter in that. And so we see that with Cathedral Chittard, and very similar with Brebeuf and Guerin.
That's good too for Guerin. Like that's the one thing, and I've said it before, I'll say it again, but really beneficial for them having an overtime game in the penultimate game of your regular season, because you get them in front, not only in an overtime situation against a team that you were probably going to see again in the sectional, you get it in front of a sold-out arena. So the atmosphere was insane, especially there late in the game. So the girls kind of got a chance to get acclimated and at least get a taste of that high-pressure, high-intensity basketball leading into sectional, which should serve them well as they take them on again at a neutral floor. Yep. Sectional up in Hamilton, or at the Yorktown sectional 24. A couple doozies to open up there. Jay County versus Newcastle. Schweiderman sisters are the big ones, but Newcastle has some good wins this year. I think they've picked off Hamilton Heights and a couple other teams too. I feel like Newcastle is one of those teams that always just kind of pops up. It's like, oh, that's a pretty good win for them. I know they're 13-7 on the season. That's going to be a really good game to start things off. And then the one that we want to pause on, Hamilton Heights versus Connersville. Hamilton Heights won the regular season meeting back towards the beginning of the year by 3. But they were at full health then. They've obviously since lost Bailey Estes, their point guard. Connersville, on the other hand, is one of the hottest teams in the state. They're playing East Central tonight as we record this. So that'll be a really good test for them. But Connersville, they kind of caught fire with that 26-point win over LaPel when they had to come back and win it. And they've really maintained that momentum against some pretty good competition here the rest of the way.
Yeah, I think we need to keep our eye on both of these teams. I think the tendency would be to see Delta and Jay County on the top side of that bracket and assume that the semifinal early game is the championship game, where in the sectional preview show, kind of thought Hamilton Heights and Connersville both kind of won the draw because you mentioned that 3-point game earlier in the season. This is a game that both Hamilton Heights and Connersville can win, even with the injury. I think with Hamilton Heights, I think we need to keep our eye on Stella Taylor. Like Bailey Eisel was a major, major piece to what they did. She was the floor general. Coach Aaron Trimpe was on the show. She talked about how she did so much for the program. I've seen her hit big shots, but she was able to kind of break down. It's also a defensive matchup because Connersville is very difficult to guard. Stella Taylor going into the lineup and playing chunk minutes, I think is important for Heights for obvious reasons. But the replenishments of the offense that was left void by the injury to Bailey Eisel was really picked up by Zoe Curry. Like Zoe Curry as a freshman really played the last 2 weeks of the season really well. I think she had 2 or 3 team highs, maybe even a couple of game highs, was getting into the 20s. This is somebody who Aaron Trimpe on the show was talking about, hey, we want her to shoot more. They're going to have some balance because Suarez, again, true as science, the kid seems to get a double-double every night. Hamilton Heights does run a lot of things through them. But let me stay a little bit with Connersville here. I don't know that a lot of people maybe in the area are familiar with their roster. Hank, you actually texted me about the Anaya Bennett kid, and I want to start with her. This is a kid who is a collegiate track commit.
St. John's.
Yep, going to go to St. John's in New York, and that's a big-time scholarship. This kid's athleticism it's ridiculous. Like she jumps out of the gym. She is as fast as anybody in this. Like we could line up kids like Anaya McKenzie and Anaya Bennett. Okay, like on the baseline and tell them to race to the other baseline. And I don't know which Anaya would win, but Anaya Bennett can absolutely fly. There's a vapor trail behind her. So the absence of Bailey Eisel in that matchup, I think does give, I don't want to say a little bit of an edge to Connersville, but athletically, I do think that it takes one of the athletic pieces that Hamilton Heights had to keep Anaya Bennett out of the paint. It puts her on the shelf. So I think that's the one kid to watch. They have other good players. Kendall Bottomley comes to mind. I mean, This kid is a really long and springy kind of wing. I think that's a game that can go either direction. And I think whoever wins it is really going to give whoever comes out of the Jay County Delta top side is really going to give them everything that they want on Saturday night.
I absolutely agree. And Serenity Pennington too, and Addison Jones all for Connersville, all 3 of them, including Bottomley, averaging 10 plus points a game. So when you stick that with the Bennett kid, I mean, they're just so well-rounded and just so balanced offensively. Bennett, like you mentioned, stands out immediately. She's a lot of fun to watch. I saw her against South Knox and then a game earlier in the day too. Really impressive there. And then for Hamilton Heights, you mentioned Zoe Curry. She was unbelievable against Rensselaer Central. I think she might have finished tied for the team lead in scoring that night. Just bombing threes. Bloom did the same thing where she caught fire there a little bit from three. And just when you take those two and then you stick them with a Riley Suarez, I mean, it's dangerous even at an early age, those three together. I mean, how do you try to mark any of them? I think Rensselaer gambled a little bit, base guarded Riley Suarez, ran some different things against her, but it's a risky proposition with as much depth and balance as they have over there.
Yeah, Bloom can catch a heater too. I mean, that's again that she can catch a heater. It is, and I don't think you can take game flow and say, oh, she missed her first 4 threes or 5 threes or 6 threes. Like, kid is in rhythm when she shoots. This is what she does. This is the best thing that she does. But if she gets one to go down, like this kid is, I mean, she has a clip. And those are the kinds of games, these one game seasons where the season is over if you lose. You know, you catch a heater with Addison Bloom and she hits 4 threes or something like that. It's that kid is plenty capable enough to be the difference maker in this game.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's transition to 4A, unless there were any other 3A games, Danny, that you wanted to touch on.
I don't even know what 3A and 4A is anymore. So
we're in the same boat, brother.
I know. Let's talk. If there's a game that we missed, we'll pick it up at the end.
Yeah, that sounds good. Let's just start from the top. Let's go with Hammond Morton versus Crown Point. Hammond Morton 17-1, Crown Point 18-4. Crown Point's on a bit of a resurgence here. They had lost the other night to Marquette Catholic, but no shame in that. That's a really, really good Marquette Catholic team. And one that they obviously didn't need it, but it adds some additional shine to their resume. They have Ava Ritchie, the sophomore, is putting up 17 a game, and then Henderson, Ivy Henderson, is at 11. On the other side, Kyla Patterson is back with Hammond Morton after a year away at prep school, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, she's back. She's averaging 27 a game plus 16 rebounds, 6 assists, 5 steals, and 2 blocks. It was just an absurd stat line. And then you have Desira Willingham behind her, averaging 11 a game. So a lot of firepower there, and two teams that are looking to take that proverbial next step here in February.
Yeah, I promised that I would screen Morton and be more familiar with why they're whatever it is 18-1. I went probably overboard a little bit in watching them. They played Lake Central last night. I mean, a completely relevant game against an opponent that could win that sectional. Guys, Hammond Morton's real. Okay, they are the real deal. And you heard the stat lines from that Hank gave you on Kyla Patterson up in those parts. They call her KP. So KP is like this kid. Whatever you say. Okay, like Lily Graves, Paige Schnoss, Claire Larison, Hannah Menser, Ada Hupfer, Kenzie Cook, Kendall Hill, whatever, Jalen Bowling, Elliot Loeffler, like the 27s that you might think are the best 27s in the state. Kyla Patterson not only has really injected herself into the center of that, like she's injected herself maybe at the top of that. This very well could be the best player in the class. It would be interesting to see what we would think about or what we would talk about if Kyla Patterson went to an Indianapolis school within the IndyStar coverage area. This kid is so elite. But when you see a team like Morton and you're 18-1, I think the natural reaction is to say, well, they probably don't play anybody and Patterson just does whatever she wants. Not true. Like in the game against Crown Point and the game against Lake Central, and then another game that I'd screened against Highland, 3 teams that are good enough to beat Hammond Morton. It was Bonner's matchup against Ava Ritchie against Crown Point that was the difference. It was Willingham scoring against Lake Central that was the difference. They have kids that understand their role and really try to star and excel in that role. Bonner and Willingham are 2 great examples of that. But in a brief conversation with Coach, like they stand on business to be the tougher team. And I think that is one thing that they are going to hang their hat on this postseason, is that they're going to put their hands on you and they're going to be tough. And there are really good players in this sectional at the post position, like Ivy Henderson, like Jillian at Lake Central. But it's the toughness of Hammond Morton that got them those wins. when they extended those leads, it wasn't just KP that was scoring. They got baskets from everybody. They got contributions from everybody. Guys, Hammond, Morton, get to know them because they're here and they're real.
And that diversity of scoring too is so important, especially this time of year. I'm not sure. I think they drew Penn, maybe the winner of the Penn sectional in regional. So it is a real possibility that whoever gets out of the sectional is on their way to semi-state. Obviously, Penn is no pushover in the way that they defend. That's going to be a fascinating matchup. But you mentioned too, Lake Central, really great job by Joe Huppenthal and his team. They lost their point guard at the beginning of the season, Allison Huppenthal, to an injury. Have still managed to win 11 games. He schedules tough. They open the year against McCutcheon. Also played Lafayette Jeff and Penn. They've played Chesterton, who we'll talk about here in a second. They've played Crown Point, Valparaiso, Marquette Catholic. So Joe does a good job stacking up that schedule, and he's done a great job keeping that group together and on track, despite a pretty significant blow early in the year.
Yep.
Let's see. You had another game you wanted to mention too. We have Valparaiso versus Chesterton, a rematch of Candy Wilson going up against her old team in Lily Barnes' final season.
I'm going to drop into the stream. I mean, we mentioned it when they played in the regular season when Candy Wilson returned, but like, this isn't just like a coach that used to coach there. Like won a regional. Like Candy Wilson won a regional at Valpo 2 years ago. And now at Chesterton, her familiarity, particularly with Lily Barnes, I think is going to be a kind of a unique thing in this postseason. Familiarity with coaches is a big storyline because you have these cross-town matchups, geographics, things like that. And in this case, you not only have the familiarity that you can gain through the regular season matchups, but you have it because you've spent summers with these kids. So that's a really interesting one. I'll keep my eye on Candy, see if she can pull off the Chesterton over Valpo upset, because it would be an upset.
Oh, very significant upset.
Yeah.
Valpo's pushing for another regional championship this year. They'll have to go through Warsaw more than likely in the regional, Warsaw or Northridge. But I mean, that's a team that's built for it for sure. And Lily Barnes has a tendency to step up in those big elimination games.
He is. Yeah.
Let's jump down to the South. We'll wait to encroach on Indianapolis area for last. So let's go with Floyd Central versus Jeffersonville. This one is really interesting. Jefferson won the regular season matchup, I think shortly after we actually had a couple players from Floyd Central on the show, and have quietly been figuring things out after kind of a rocky start that included a coaching change and some tough losses there in between. They've kind of stabilized a little bit and are quietly building some momentum going into the sectional.
Yeah, this is a super scary game for Floyd Central, and of course they get it on Tuesday. I before I go any further, I think the biggest winner in this draw is Bedford North Lawrence. I talked to Bedford North Lawrence's head coach Chase Breen earlier in the year, and he told me that they figured to win 13, 14 games. They won 16 regular season games. They are big favorites in the first matchup, which will be their 17th win, and Bedford North Lawrence is going to be likely right there on Saturday night, probably against the winner of this Jeffersonville-Floyd Central game. But Jeffersonville has the firepower to hang if they can make shots. Their athleticism with Khalees Dansby, I think, is kind of the headline of Jeffersonville. She can get to wherever she wants. She can get paints under her shoes. She's electric off of the bounce. She has one speed. I mean, she goes 0 to 60 and stays at 60 and goes. And I don't mean that in a bad way.
That's awesome.
Like she just, it's electric. Okay.
Yeah.
But it's not just Dansby. Like McKenna Taylor, I'd mentioned her, like when you watch her, maybe it's the blonde ponytail, maybe it's the fact that she hits shots, but she like gives you like these Haley Van Lith vibes. She's a very good player in the 28 class, but maybe their biggest collegiate recruit is a kid by the name of Alicia Mangrum. Like Mangrum has some size, can score it at 3 different levels. You know, AJ Moye taking the reins of Jeffersonville kind of halfway through the year puts us in a position where we probably need to quite honestly, throw away everything that Jeffersonville did prior to the coaching change. So I do think that Jeffersonville does possess the ability to make shots when you and then with Floyd Central, their I celebrated. Jerry Hickey is, I think, in a little bit of a zone right now. No pun intended. Well, maybe a pun intended there. But he a little bit of a zone right now in changing defenses. One of the games that we had talked about and analyzed after it was done was the Jennings County game that Floyd Central played against them, and it was their defense. And it wasn't just the effectiveness of their defense possession to possession. It was how often and the timing of which Jerry Hickey changed different defenses. For example, Christy Sigler would call timeout when they were a little bit unbalanced against, say, their matchup quarter court zone. And then out of the timeout, they would be in a 2-2-1. Floyd Central is going to guard you in just multiple different ways. They are going to guard you. So if they're going to guard you, you have to be really efficient with your looks. And I think the easy thing to say is, well, let's just give the ball to Dansby, go 60 miles an hour, get our paint touches, and then kick out to Taylor and Mangrum and let him make threes. They're not like Floyd Central and Jerry Hickey. I have a ton of respect for the way that he has constructed that zone. He's not going to make it that easy. And so I think Coach Moye is going to be tested very early to see how he can get those Jeffersonville team shots against Floyd Central's multiple zones.
Floyd Central gives up 35 points a game, and I'm watching them, and I'm checking out too. I mean, just looking at scores from their biggest games of the season, they're very comfortable playing something in the 40s. Like, they don't mind a point total below 50 for either side. You saw it against McCutcheon, saw it at Wings and Rings against Connersville, Borden, Heritage Christian. They're very pleased. They're fine with grinding you out a little bit. They have some great athleticism. Elise Coleman gives you the option to stretch out the floor a little bit. I really liked watching Floyd Central play, but there's something about that Jeffersonville team. I remember watching them last year when they had a lot of this same crew. I saw them against North Knox at Brownsburg, and I think they actually lost that game, but just a really fast team. Like you said, they're athletic, and then looking at the numbers, they take care of the ball a lot better than one might expect for the speed at which they play. They're averaging only 10 turnovers a game. So they do a good job of taking care of the ball there, and some good experience returning there for that group. So that's a great first night matchup. It's too bad that one of those teams will be out at the beginning of the tournament, because those are two really good quality teams.
Yeah, 2 points before we move on to the next game. First, there are a lot of people rooting for Jeffersonville, and I think that it's not just Bedford North Lawrence, and that is a tip of the cap to how good Floyd Central is. But there are a lot of people who don't want to see Floyd Central within that semi-state because of the way they guard. If in a game that is in the 40s, let's take Pike, for example, or Lawrence Central, for example, who don't want to play games in the 40s, can they beat a team that is okay playing a game in the 40s? Let's spin it forward. Let's say it was Center Grove that got out of the regional. Let's say got out of it. Now you're suddenly in the semi-state with two basketball teams. Like, in order to win it, you have to be at least one of them that is going to play this quarter court, grimy zone, congested game where live ball change of possession is a rarity. So let's keep our eye on that. You mentioned Elise Coleman. My punctuating thought on Floyd Central is going to be this. I think that kid has a very, very strong Indiana all-star candidacy. And she's hit big shots throughout the year. The one at Jennings County is the one that comes to mind, and it's the one everybody will talk about. It's the one that I'll talk about. That kid can do it. She can do it, man. And if she puts together a nice little run, she might find herself extending her season into June with Indiana across her jersey.
Who's the last softball player to make Indiana All-Stars, if that were to happen? It's probably, I'm sure, racking my brain. She might be, it's pretty rarefied air there. She'll be in the thick of softball season at that point, too.
The All-Star team. Yeah, that's a good question. Nobody comes to mind.
That'd be crazy. Let's move now into the Indianapolis area. You have Lawrence North versus Warren Central at North Central. We said it at the top on Sunday. I mean, Lawrence North's path to defending that 4A state title, they did not take it easy on them. But knowing Steven, knowing how that program is wired, I don't think that they would really – I'm sure they would like it another way. But they wouldn't have it any other way, as a manner of speaking, where they're going to have to test their mettle against Warren Central and North Central to get into the championship game.
Yeah, Coach Mitchell's zone. Again, we talk about Jerry Hickey's zone. We can do the same thing with Stacy Mitchell and the Warren Central Zone. If they can dig their heels in and get an early lead against Lawrence North, it's the paint congestion is a lot. Denia Jacobs is electric. She is one of the better players in the 28 class, can definitely make plays. But this matchup between Warren Central and Lawrence North, for me, is kind of maybe a look into the future of the sectional. You not only have Jacobs, but you also have that stable of Lawrence North youth that will all be back next year. And it's not just the 27s like Bentley and Brooklyn Roberts, but it's also the 28s like Peyton and Hunt. I should mention Beard in the 29 class, but Suggs, right? I mean, this is Suggs in the sectional now. She has been a kid who a lot of people have said, hey, this is going to be one of the better players, if not the best player in kind of that North Indianapolis area. And this is a kid who is going to be playing in her very first sectional game. And I expect some fireworks because she is no stranger to playing in these big games with what she does in some of her other, kind of off-season things. But that kid is a kid that I'm going to be particularly watching in this matchup because she can do it all. And if the track holds, this could be her first game in the sectional. That could be her sectional.
Yeah.
One day.
It really is. Like you can see, they're one of those teams we can see the futures kind of happening and unfolding before our eyes. But something too with LN, two things that have kind of gone under the radar, at least when I looked at them and dug into them. Clea Bentley and Brooklyn Roberts have both really stepped up. Obviously, they had some departures over the season. It was Kiki Butler, Naja Winston. Need people to fill that vacuum of scoring. Bentley and Roberts have both done a really good job of that, and it's obviously been kind of a by-committee approach there. But those two, as upperclassmen, have done a good job stepping up. And even though LN has lost 6 straight, the one that I go back to and the one that I circle is that game against Lawrence Central when they were down 2, down 3, chance to tie, chance to take the lead on multiple possessions in the fourth quarter. It says a lot about this team and the resiliency that they have. You always kind of wonder how much of a toll a losing streak like that can take on a group. And in LN's case, it seems like they rebounded and rallied, got it up for a rivalry team. Now you're in the mix again, a county rival again for sectional. So I'd expect to see the same kind of energy for them as well. On the Warren Central side, they've been without Star Williams, it looks like, since late November, which is a tough loss for them. She's been really good this year. But they got back Layla Brown, who had 41 points so far in her first 4 games back. So that's good news for Warren Central. Stacy's teams, I mean, they're always there. They picked off a young Lawrence Central team the year before they won state. I remember that. Super competitive with them. I think it was last year maybe. They maybe took LC down to the wire. I might be thinking of North Central there. But Stacy always sets that thing cooking, man. And I mean, when they have Jacob sisters on the teams, this year it's Danelle and Denasia, you're in good shape.
Yep.
Yeah. Section 11, Ben Davis and Plainfield in the opener. What is just a terrible draw for Plainfield begins with Ben Davis. I had a chance to see Ben Davis last night. They looked okay in spurts, but sectionals and things like that brings out a different level of intensity, different level of energy when you factor in the fact that it's Plainfield and the brotherly battle that you have in the coaching position between Stan and Kurt. That adds a little bit of extra juice to it too.
Stay there. Did he say anything? Like you spent some time with him last night. You were over at the Ben Davis-Westfield game. That's really interesting. I mean, this is like the first family of coaching in Indianapolis, the Benj family. And did Kurt say anything about the history of coaching against family members and things like that?
We talked about it a little bit, just how the matchup went away when Stan went up to coach at the college level. And I thought, no, maybe there's some fun story behind it. No, it's just that I think Plainfield needed a game at some point when Stan was back. So it got added back to the schedule a couple years ago. And it's been pretty good back and forth. But no, I mean, they really are the first 2 sons of basketball and girls basketball in Indiana. And it was fun chopping up with Kurt about some of that stuff and how they stay in, regularly, not as much as they used to, but when Kurt first got into coaching, how they'd have like nightly conversations, basically talking about coaching after they'd played each other. He said he was not expecting a call after last night's game, which didn't go great for Ben Davis. But yeah, I mean, the other thing too to remember as I circle back to the matchup is Ben Davis beat Plainfield at the beginning of the season, and Plainfield was a little bit healthier then. So, I mean, proof of concept there for Ben Davis. And they hung with Brownsburg And they're one of those teams that if they catch you on the right night, you're in real trouble.
Shania Curry can be the best player on the floor on any given night that she laces them up. This kid's really good. And the reason why I bring her up is because I remember I think I was actually in attendance for it. And we could go back and pick out the sectional rap show that we did. I probably talked about the performance of Shania Curry within this sectional. This is a kid who is multiple Division I offers, figures to be an impact basketball player. When she gets to college, can do a lot of different things well, has some size, has some length, has some athleticism, can score at least two different levels with high efficiency. This is a tough match for Plainfield because of, yes, the familiarity and the coaching prowess, of course, of Stan, the tradition of Ben Davis, but the presence of Shania Curry is something there. I would fully expect. I guess I don't want to say fully expect, but I'll pose it as a question. Are we going to see Berkeley Williams guard Shania Curry? And we talked about how sometimes she guards people and gives up inches. This would be another scenario in which she does. Berkeley Williams guarding Shania Curry in sectional 11 with the season on the line is theater.
Yeah, that's must-see entertainment right there.
It is. It is.
It's going to be phenomenal. One fun fact that Kurt did pass along is that Tatum Skibinski, I think she's a freshman. Stan actually coached her mom at Ben Davis, which is a fun fact to know and tell. But yeah, no, the Berkeley Williams matchup, I would assume there'd be Curry. Speaking of Berkeley, she rolled her ankle, I think it was during practice a couple weeks ago, missed a few games. She missed the Franklin Central game. But she's expected to play on Friday, and they're expecting her to be a go on Tuesday. So, I mean, that team, man, just cannot catch a break with injuries between the summer when they barely had – they didn't have anybody. Illness obviously runs its course over the course of the season too, which takes players out. Hannah Menser, as we've reported in the past, is playing through a hip injury. Dugan was out for most of the summer. They just got Carol Lennox back, which is a nice little add, so at least they have some depth there. But yeah, I mean, Plainfield is just injury after injury after injury. You wonder at some point how much they have left in the tank, but that team, though, has just continued to find ways to win here, especially of late. Hannah Menser, I want to spotlight her. The numbers that she's putting up, despite having gone as a torn labrum, are absurd. The kid's still averaging 16 points a game, still shooting the ball at a really good clip, still rebounding, still passing and distributing well. I mean, she's still doing everything well despite that injury. That's got to be brutal playing through. It's unbelievable what she's doing. But the thing against Ben Davis is we saw it in flashes last night, just that ability to pick off a pass. Next thing you know, they're laying it on the other end. And then the rebounding too, where they're just ferocious and they attack the glass. And those are little things that could probably tilt that game if it comes close, if the shots aren't falling consistently for Plainfield early on.
I hate that. I hate that that's the story with Hannah. Like, is it too much to ask to have a healthy Hannah Menser in sectionals? Because last year she had the flu. And we can speak casually about it now, but like I remember she was like leaving the game and I like going into the locker room and then coming back out and then re-entering the game. And now she's had the chronic injury that she's fighting now. If Plainfield wins a game, if Plainfield wins the sectional, however Plainfield performs, it needs to be done so with the asterisk that they are doing this completely beat up, and it is with their scoring general Hannah Menser. Like, so Hannah is I'm sure that she deals with pain, throughout the game. You can see her grimacing throughout it. But this isn't even the first time that she's had to do something like this and have a good sectional performance by not being 100%. She did it last year. And if you remember that Pike game, like that was a very close basketball game that the condition of Hannah Menser was one of the things that kind of tilted in Pike's favor there. So, I do think that teams that play against Plainfield, and again, I hate that it's the story. I hate that we talk about it, and it is so unfair to Hannah. But they're going to put their hands on Hannah, and they're going to be rough with her. And so I think it is on Plainfield to set screens for her, put her in a lot of different options, get her as many catch and release opportunities that they can, because very similarly to the narrative that I laid out with Addison Bloom. I mean, a Hannah Mentzer heater is going to win him the basketball game if she can just find it, right? Her creation off the bounce is probably something that she maybe isn't going to try quite as much. So I think it is on her teammates to try to penetrate to her side, see if you can induce them into some mistakes on help side, and put Hannah in as many catch and release opportunities as possible.
And again, like even through the physicality, some teams have tried it all season. I mean, the kid just plays through it. She just grinds through it.
She's so tough.
Again, just phenomenal this season. Can't say enough about what she's been playing through. Another one who's been really good for Plainfield is Mariah Armstrong, the transfer from Covenant Christian. She's fit in really nicely. Done, nothing numbers that really just blow you away, but she's kind of settled in, got acclimated with playing at the 4A level against the competition they do. That Hendricks County Championship game stands out for her, where she hit 2 or 3 threes, I think, just to kind of sprinkled in there with a big performance from Berkeley to kind of get Plainfield rolling. But she adds to that scoring depth that Plainfield has and needs around Hannah Mentzer to kind of get the defense to ease up a little bit on her and create some opportunities for Hannah when their defense is forced to play a little more honestly against Plainfield.
Well, you mentioned Armstrong. I'll mention Dugan. Like, it's no secret that we watch a lot of Plainfield games. It's not just the balance that they need. It's the fact that they have multiple kids that can make shots in big time moments. I can't remember what game it was, but it was right in front of the Plainfield bench where Dugan had 2 threes that caught the fist pumps of the coaching staff and the benches and really changed the game. I think it might have been actually one of the Brownsburg games, in fact. But when we had Berkeley and Hannah on, I think it was Berkeley that said, like, we have multiple kids that can make shots. Like, I did a bad job of like saying like, oh, you have to get Mentzer. Like, if Mentzer can hold help and create driving lanes for some of those other people. I did not realize that they got Olenek back. That's a really good thing. But when you have Armstrong and Olenek and Dugan and some of these other players, Todd.
Todd.
There's multiple kids that can make big shots.
Mm-hmm. The one thing with Plainfield is the lack of a true like post player or kid like that on the inside, which hurts them a little bit, but by and large, it's a really good team. And then if they win and beat Ben Davis, that sets up a rematch with Brownsburg, a team that they've beaten twice this year. And we'll talk about it a little bit later, but a team that's maybe kind of finally starting to break through and get some of those quality wins. Let's see, Danny, let's go on up to where should we go next? Pendleton Heights is a big game against Mount Vernon. I know records-wise, this is one of those games where you just kind of throw the records out the window, because Mount Vernon always seems to play Pendleton Heights tough, especially in these postseason matchups. Expect it to be kind of a knockdown, drag-out, low-scoring fight, as what those programs have been accustomed to playing. In the other match on Tuesday, you have a Greenfield Central team that's looking to win its first sectional game since 2019. They open against Muncie Central. So things are looking up there, potentially for Greenfield Central to get a win there. And then if they beat Anderson, they're in the championship game. And they're led by Izzy Silcox, who's continued to just be excellent. She's been really good over the course of her career and has a chance to get a little bit of school history added to her resume.
Yeah, this one, you can't count Mount Vernon out. Death Taxes, Julie Shelton. We'll interject that for the second time in this episode. I went back and watched the Pendleton Heights Mount Vernon game where Pendleton Heights played them, I think, to a 28-point spread and just, quite frankly, dominated the game. I mentioned it earlier when we were talking about the shot clock. I think the lead is important both ways. Like if Mount Vernon, for example, has the lead, the pickup points on Zoe Wood's going to be higher. And when a pickup point is higher on a guard, it gives her more space to kind of get downhill. That's what Zoe Wood likes to do. She did hit a couple of early shots in that game, but this game boils down to this for me. Mount Vernon throughout the season, and it was really exemplified in this Pendleton Heights game. They go through these huge stretches where they just don't score the basketball. It's really odd. So they have to find some consistent offense. Like in that game, Mount Vernon had 15 points, 15 at the end of the first quarter. They don't have another field goal until 3 minutes left in the third quarter when Ash takes a little jump hook over Ada Hupper. Like that's an entire quarter of basketball without a field goal. Like, let me say that again. It's an entire quarter of basketball without a field goal. So Mount Vernon is going to have to find a way to find offensive production. It doesn't need to be this unleashing of the greatest show on turf, but it needs to be enough where Pendleton Heights can't get away. I talked about how the lead is very important in this game. If Mount Vernon were to get the lead, yeah, pickup points going to be higher on Zoe Wood. But the other thing that happens is now Mount Vernon can really kind of dig their heels in on quarter court, congest the paint around Ada Hupfer, make some of those kids take some tough shots. And they're plenty capable of doing it. Kids like Warfel, both Warfels, Olivia Jones is definitely capable. This would be an upset if Mount Vernon were to get them, but I do think that the formula and the familiarity is there. I think there is a path for Mount Vernon to win this game. But I do think that they need the lead early in this game, and they have to avoid these just long stretches where they just can't score the ball.
Mm-hmm. That'll be key. Let's move into Sectional 8 now. It's a down year overall for the section. I think it's fair to say, but it's obviously an extremely high bar when one year you have 4 of the top 6 teams in the state, chock full of nationally ranked talents and prospects, but it's wide open because everybody's around hovering the same spot. Like I think HSE's the favorite, Westfield's nipping at their heels. And then you have Fishers, Zionsville, Noblesville, Carmel, all right there to varying degrees, ready to take a run at this thing. The bracket sets up that the first game that night will be Fishers versus Zionsville, which is the game we'll start with here. Fishers has been in a real interesting spot this past couple weeks where they go from knocking off Brownsburg in a really surprising and really impressive win to not only losing to Avon, but losing by 20 plus points to Avon, a game that not many could have seen coming. A really nice win for Avon, a bit of a puzzler for Fishers. I'm going to have a chance to see them tomorrow night against Franklin Central. But what do you make of the Tigers coming into this one, Dan?
Yeah, I mean, look, Fishers has had to deal with interim coaches and things like that. The Fishers is built for sectionals because they have to be one of those teams that just is really subscribing all in on these are 1-game seasons for us. Okay. Mm-hmm. Everything is against them, right? I mean, even I think in the earlier season matchup, I think Zionsville scored their 50th point before Fisher scored their 20th point, but it was forever ago. Like it was around Thanksgiving. Like, can we really draw any conclusion? Okay. Here's what I know. Ella Burleson can fill it. Okay. That kid's shooting 39% from 3. The second half of the season last year, she really found a way to, she was maybe a little sped up in her freshman season, shooting the basketball early. And then when the game started to slow down for her, she found a way to make shots, particularly from the 3-point line. She is a huge X factor in this for me, for Fishers. And then, they're built around Natalie Thomas, but Reagan Reif is the other kid too. Like these are 2 28s who are 2 of the better 28s in the class, definitely 2 of the better 28s in the area, who have some experience in playing in this sectional, who understand what this is all about. And if they can get some clean looks and knock them down early, again, with Natalie Thomas, who is a load to handle in the paint. Now Zionsville does match up pretty well against them, but if those 2 things happen, where Natalie Thomas and her post position can get established, and then you can find a way to get some kickouts to Burleson, Rife, Anthony, Triplett, those kids are there. They want to get those kids in downhill attack. Fishers, like in the Mudsock game, was right there with HSE. And so they do have the talent and the DNA to win one of these games. And look, all due respect to Carmel, like Carmel has shown a level of inconsistency this year that whoever wins that Zionsville-Fishers game could find themselves on Saturday night playing in the sectional championship. Like it's that fine of a line with the performance. So that's my take on Fishers.
Yeah, it really is, to your point. Like whoever wins this game, it is pick a name out of a hat, and you're probably going to get close to whoever advances. I mean, it's wide open on that top half of the Sectional 8 bracket. It's going to be really interesting to see how that one unfolds. On the Zionsville side, they had HSE on the ropes there, not on the ropes there, but they were staying with HSE toe to toe into the third quarter, and then started maybe leaning a little bit too heavily on the 3-point ball just in watching the film back. And they went about they went over a 6-minute stretch between the third and fourth quarters without a field goal. Zionsville did, and that kind of doomed them against HSE. But they're playing some better ball here. They're hanging with some good teams like that, like HSE. They went out the other night and beat up on Lebanon a little bit going in to Friday's game against Brownsburg. But they're an interesting group. They've been kind of hard to get a read on, just in terms of they're losing some games that you kind of expect them to earlier in the season. Picked it up here a little bit, having won 3 of 4. But again, if you catch them on the right night and they're able to catch fire for a week stretch, they could win the sectional.
Well, Tinder and Zach, I mean, the previous game that Zionsville played at Fishers, I had referenced the fact that it was 100 years ago, back by like around Thanksgiving. I had mentioned, and I'll repeat it, that they scored their 50th point before Fishers scored their 20th point. I think it was a 50-19 game at the time. And both Tinder and Zach had it going. I think they were both over 20 in that game. Mackenzie Chapman got into double figures. That junior class of Chapman, Zach, and Tinder that is a very talented group. And when they are firing on all 3 of those cylinders, all due respect to their senior class, like Frobig and all of that, but like when they're firing on those 3 cylinders, particularly the Tinder and Zach kind of duo that Coach Drudge leans on quite a bit, I think there is a direct relationship between Zionsville's performance this year and both of those kids playing well. So I will say it. If Zionsville were to advance past Fishers, it will be because Tinder and Zach both show up on Tuesday night.
That's fair. And 2, we should mention late in the season, I knew there was a big Zionsville win that I was overlooking. They beat a full-strength Bloomington South team at Christmas at the Plainfield event. That was the one that's like, oh, that's surprising. Like, that was a really impressive win. And that's not a knock against Zionsville. That's more credit to just how good Bloomington South is. But a really good win for the Eagles there in December.
You take anything away from the first matchup?
Probably not.
Yeah. Okay. Fair.
Yeah. I think in this case, because the teams have changed so much and it was so early in the year, and it's just, yeah, it's weird. And that series in particular, Zionsville-Fishers has had Zionsville's number for the longest time. Like, I remember Layla Hall, the year that she won Miss Basketball, I think they beat Fishers in the regular season, was the first time in 5 or 6 years or something like that. So there's just something about those teams in the regular season that Fishers seems to have Zionsville's number. So I don't read a ton into it. I also think that Fishers, which is, like you said, the coaching change, because Lauren Votaw has been on maternity leave. She's back now, I believe, coaching. So, different changes there and whatnot too. So, I think it's a different Fishers team coming into the rematch.
Yep, agreed.
The other semifinal features Hamilton Southeastern versus Westfield. I'd say the 2 best teams in the sectional going head-to-head. I saw Westfield last night. It was a phenomenal offensive performance. HSE, they grinded out that win over Zionsville, which was preceded by a win over Westfield. Turn around, they got blown out by Center Grove. They have not. That was their last game of the regular season. That lost last Saturday to Center Grove. For some teams, I think that would be concerning. In HSE's case, I think that's probably a good thing because it gives them a little bit extra time to rest. I'm thinking specifically of KK Holman, who had that knee injury late in December that kept her out for 3 games. So it gives her a little bit of extra time to rest. Maybe it'd be good to get the younger kids get their feet wet against a different team, but or maybe have gotten them a chance to play a team like Pike in the regular season finale to get them geared up and ready for Westfield. But I think overall, they're probably okay with the Pike game getting canceled, not rescheduled for HSE was what the point that I was getting at. What do you make of this one, Danny, as I struggle to the finish line?
No, you're good. I think this is a game of youth. So Holman and Stidham, maybe the best 1-2 punch in the sectional. That's obvious. They've been around forever, but they're old seniors too. Like Holman and Stidham have played in Sectional 8 games since they were freshmen, and they played major roles. Let's list them out here. I throw Ant Green in there too. Like Ant Green has been a major part of Satterfield's rotation the last couple of years and has been a major point. And she's actually, her ball pressure, we talked about it in the last episode, her ball pressure has dictated the outcome of a lot of these games also.
Mhm.
Abby Orm is a 27. She had some experience, but still not very long in the tooth. Um, Piper Brindley, Evie Tolliver, Haley Mazzara on the Westfield side, Gabby Bassett, Lillian Clark. I mean, these are all kids really that are playing in their first sectional 8 atmosphere. And we'll see. We'll see. Again, the elbow tightens up a little bit. The stakes are a little bit higher. There's definitely some things that that youth can expose that can turn the outcome of the game. I'll throw it back to you because you got to see Lillian Clark live for the first time last night. Gabby Bassett was out, and all indications are that she's going to play on Tuesday night. But you got to see Lillian Clark for the first time last night with your own eyes. I got a text from you. Tell us what you saw with her.
Second time seeing her. I saw her against Carmel earlier in the season, but I mean, last night she was on one. I mean, she was unbelievable. There is a play that stood out to me, and I think it resulted in a basket, but she's double teamed right at midcourt. Looks like they were trapped, and the kid has a wherewithal to kind of step through and then finds a passing seam and zips a pass up. So I think it was Michaela Hatcher for an easy layup. They beat the defense. So just plays like that, the way that she handled Brendan Davis's pressure was really impressive. And then, I mean, she shot the lights out last night. Like, that was maybe one of the best offensive performances all around that I've seen from Westfield in the 4 or 5 years that I've been here and covering Westfield girls basketball. I mean, everything was falling. Speaking of Lillian, she bombed a 3 from the logo that Benj and I kind of looked at each other like, okay. And then she took a heat check 3 from the top of the arc that almost went in 2. Like, it was fun to watch. And there was a fun anecdote that Kelsey Steele gave to me after the game we were talking. And it's that they have this thing where Lillian always has to be the first one to the gym. And that includes the coaches. Like, she wants to beat the coaches. So Kelsey's like, I'm on maternity leave, getting calls from Lillian asking if we can let her in the gym. So I'm back on the phone calling the school administrators, trying to figure out who can open up things for her and get her in the gym. But she said the kid's a workhorse, constantly grinding, constantly working on her shot. And you can see that work really paying off. But I thought that was pretty cool. And yeah, I mean, geez Louise, man, if they shoot like they did last night against HSE, which I don't expect to happen, just like I don't expect HSE to shoot the lights out against Westfield. That's just not how these games ever go. But if they do, and looking beyond HSE, if they were to advance, the way that Westfield can shoot the ball makes them more dangerous than one might expect offensively.
Yeah. And I think that on the other side of things too, so we're going to see Clark and Bassett presumably make big shots on Tuesday night. HSE, with the way teams have elected to guard them and elected to guard Stidham, kids like Haley Mazzara get a much higher volume of shots. Mm-hmm. And this is a kid like Haley Mazzara we talked about earlier in the year. At one point in time, was shooting 50% from 3. She only was taking shots where she was open. Now she's starting to put the ball on the deck a little bit. And not huge, like middle third, like clear aside for Haley Mazzara kind of thing, but you're starting to see her penetrate a little bit. I can remember one game that I saw where she had a couple of possessions back to back where she hit a 3, and then the next possession she penetrated baseline, hit a little floater for a little 5-0 run that HSE had. So I think when you get into the kind of the secondary line of players, I'm very, very, very anxious to see what particularly the HSE kids do, because I refuse to believe that Westfield is going to let Holman dance all over Carmel's gymnasium. Mm-hmm. Now she is talented enough where you can throw anything at her and she's still going to have her dance. But KK's always been a kid that she makes the right play. Like if she doesn't take, in other words, she doesn't take a lot of bad shots. Like if that's what you want to do, we have seen it the last 3 weeks of the season. She has confidence. She's going to throw the ball to Haley Mazzara, and Haley Mazzara has a 50% chance to make that 3-pointer in the corner. So that I think is going to be the interesting thing, because now you have kids like Mazzara, like I'm talking about Haley Mazzara, I'm talking about Lillian Clark, I'm talking about Gabby Bassett, I'm talking about these kids that have never played in Sectional 8 before, and they're the ones that are going to dictate the outcome. Look, we're probably just going to see Holman go for 30, and then I'm going to have to get on here the next morning and be like, remember when I said it was going to be like a role player game? And then Holman just takes it over. But I think that's really interesting because if Westfield, who everybody has said is going to give HSE everything that they want, I think the first thing that they have to do is make other people not named Kennedy Holman beat them.
Mm-hmm. And to your point about KK, I mean, the kid, one of the best characteristics of her is how she elevates everybody around her.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know if Maya Makaluski wins Miss Basketball last year if KK's not in that lineup. You know, and I don't know if HSE has the success they've had in years past if KK's not in that lineup, just because her ability to facilitate and applying that to this year, this is nothing new. Like, she's been passing these kids, trusting them, setting them up for these open looks, encouraging them to take shots since the beginning of the year. Yes, KK's had to become more of a scorer herself and be a little bit more aggressive than we've seen from her in years past. But, too, you can tell, like, the little things that she does. It's very similar to Reagan Wilson and what we saw from her at Noblesville. Just that ability to bring everybody up and keep those young kids' confidence up. Is super important. One other note for me on the timing side of things, I think that this matchup comes at a really good spot for Westfield. Like, I think you want HSE out of the gates. Like, you don't want time to have to think about it. Like, last year was their first championship game in a while. This year you get them right out of the gates. Let's see what you got kind of thing. They don't have a chance to build momentum on the HSE side. The Westfield kids don't really have a full week to think about this looming matchup that's there. It's just one day you sit through a game and then you go. So that's kind of an interesting thing in terms of the nerves of it all. And two, lest we forget, Westfield has 3 kids returning who were on that sectional championship team or sectional runner-up team last year in Parker Hatcher and Clark.
That's right.
Yeah. So they have kids who are experienced and have been in this spot. And I think that helps too. And it kind of balances, similar to what HSE has obviously with KK and Kayla in at Green, but it kind of counterbalances the youth on that team and gives them a sense of direction and a sense of someone to lean on, I guess, for stability in those moments.
People have heard me say this before when evaluating and previewing postseason basketball, that brackets are very different because you don't say things like, well, to be the best, you have to beat the best. Sometimes you just have to be on the opposite side of the bracket as the best and let somebody else beat them. Mm-hmm. It's good for Westfield that they get HSE early, but it's also good for everybody else in the sectional, which is just so sectional 8 of this draw to give us, because if this truly is a wide open sectional, which I'm not positive that it is, but if it truly is a wide open sectional, if Tuesday night at 7:30 we get rid of one of the top 5 teams in the state, it truly is, I mean, wide open. Like, you betting against Donna Buckley without HSE? Like, it is, and I just picked her just arbitrarily, right?
Well, they have to face them in the semifinals, yeah.
For sure. So HSE, I'll close with a thought about HSE. I think HSE is giving vulnerability vibes because of what happened against Center Grove. Let's not forget that 2 weeks prior, they beat Homestead, fully loaded, fully healthy, aside from the Gabby Helsum stuff, but beat them. Like, and that was at a time where many people were saying that Homestead was the best team in the state, and HSE got them. Like, this is a basketball team that when they play their best, they're as good as anybody in the state. A lot of that has to do with number 11, but Stidham has played really, really well the second half of the season. Yes, she shot the ball better, but earlier in the season, I date back to this, like, she was trying to do other things. And she was posting, she was crashing the glass, she was scoring on putbacks, she was trying to make a more dedicated effort to be in a stance on the defensive side, things like that. And I think her concentration on some of those other things led her to just being a little bit more unconscious with her shooting the basketball. And I bet if you look at what Holman did last year, shooting the ball so well in the second half of the season, I think Stidham is the kid approaching the postseason who's really shooting the basketball in the second half of the season really, really well. She's had a couple of games that are forgettable in her mind, but it's like Stidham has a clip. And so I think that's a kid, Stidham, if she can do it from 3 different levels, get to the free throw line, provide some size for HSE, which they are absent of. Okay. And that we talk about that quite a bit. That I think Kayla Stidham could be the key to this whole sectional 8 mess. Yeah,
for sure. And one final thought too, I guess, for me on HSE is that stretch of games, the 3 games that they had without KK, just the importance of that development, because that's when you really started to see Kayla take the reins. And she had that buzzer beater against Valpo. Had a couple big games after that.
right.
But you saw her kind of taking the reins there. And those younger kids were forced to step up, the Piper Brindleys, the Orms, Mazzara. You saw those kids having to step up because they were forced into that role. And, I mean, that's a good thing. It was one of those blessing in disguise situations. So now you have KK Holman back, your leading scorer, on top of a rapidly heating up Kayla Stidden, on top of these young kids are building a lot of confidence. And it is interesting because I think you're right. I think the perception of HSE may be a little bit of vulnerability because they just got hammered by Center Grove, but that's a damn dangerous team. Like you mentioned, like they beat it Homestead, and obviously that was before the Valpo game when KK got hurt, but still they were a really good team. Defensively, they're unbelievable, and offensively, they've made a lot more progress than maybe people give them credit for.
Yeah, Holman, Green, Brindley guarded Lola Lampley when they beat Lawrence Central earlier in the year at their place. Like they have kids that can guard. Haley Mazzara is a kid who is like, just watch her play. Like to the young people in the audience, like watch her play off the ball defense. Like she is performing shell drill in an HSE game jersey. Like practice shell drill all the time. Like they are really good at team defense. But in order to be a good defensive team-wise, you've got to be able to guard in individual spots, and they have multiple kids that can do it. Holman is at the top of that list. Like, I mean, I know we talk about Green and we celebrate Green and the on-ball pressure. I mean, how many times have we seen it, Hank, where KK just takes one kid and just says, "Not tonight."
Yeah. That's gonna be a really fun game. That's probably the game that I'm most looking forward to night one, and is the game that I'll be at. Spoiler alert, HSE-Westfield. That'll be a blast. But we thank you guys for soldiering through the show with us, through the technical difficulties, through the rambling. For me, we appreciate you watching. Danny and I will be back Tuesday night with our first post game show. We'll probably do another one Wednesday. Potential for a semifinals preview show, then back on Friday, Saturday night as well. With guests, same thing that we did last year. We'll have guest analysis, video highlights, photos. Anything and everything you can ask for. So be sure to subscribe to the YouTube channel, ring the bell for notifications when we go live. I have plenty of stories on IndyStar.com as you watch this tonight on Thursday. Friday, we're going to have the small school capsules up for 2A and Class A. Saturday is for 3A, 4A, then predictions. Viewers guide, anything you can ask for. Oh, and one last batch of statewide rankings too. Who's your number one in the state? Pike? What's your 1, 2, 3? How do you rank them?
Me? Oh my God. So I don't go by rankings when it comes to the postseason. I kind of go by tiers. Okay. I think the top tier in the, I'm sorry. It's just, I think the top tier in the South, the top tier in the South is Pike and Center Grove. Okay. Yeah. I do think that everybody else is nipping at their heels. In that box is a Floyd Central. In that box is a Lawrence Central. In that kind of secondary box are those teams. But I think if this chalks out, I think Pike and Center Grove. On the north side, I think it's Warsaw and Homestead. Okay. Make note, HSE fans, like I think they are maybe in that kind of second tier, but here's what not HSE. Here's what Sectional 8 got. Sectional 8 avoided Homestead, Warsaw, some of those teams in regional. So we'll see what happens with Lafayette, Jeff McCutcheon. We'll talk about that next week, that game, because that one figures to be very interesting. But I would suspect that the Sectional 8 winner will feel very good about that matchup. Careful what you wish for, kind of stuff there. But I think those are the 4 teams, and I would take those 4 teams: Warsaw, Homestead, Pike, and Center Grove, and I would very comfortably lay the field.
I wrote this in the ranking story, and just a passing thought, but these rankings don't mean anything. But it was stunning that the coaches didn't give Center Grove a single first place vote. The disrespect is unbelievable. Yeah, truly unbelievable. After beating Hamilton Southeastern, a top 5 team in the fashion which they did, like you just, I don't get it. Like they've been at another level. It doesn't mean anything. I'm sure Stockmeyer, if anything, that's some fun motivation for the girls. But yeah, no, I thought that was astounding. But
unclear, by the way, if Stuck is in the IVCA and has a vote. But if he has a vote, he didn't vote for his own kids to be number 1 either. So I actually would think that like they are approaching this being like, no, we're not on the top tier. We're not on the top tier. Warsaw, Homestead, Pike, Lawrence Central, Floyd Central, HSE. You guys can have that. Okay. Here's what we have. We have our system. We have our team. We have Grayson Gilliard. We have kids that have starred in their roles, and we don't care what the rankings say. If he didn't vote for his own team for number one, that's gangster.
I don't know if Stuck has a vote. I'll have to ask him about that next time I see him. But that's the show. We thank you all again so much for watching.